why don't we go ahead and get started, everybody? This is the mayor's forum. Again, most of you have been on this call before. It's a monthly meeting. It's open forum, so everybody is a participant. There's no attendees and participants. So just please make sure that you're on mute. And if you have a question anytime during any of this, please raise your hand. And the kind of format is we're going to talk to Colin in just 1 minute, who's with Homeward Bound, get an update from the Casa Buena. And then we're going to have Adam give us updates about what's going on in town. Before we get to all that, I'm sure everybody realized there was some smoke today in Corte Madera. Basically, there was a fire off Camino Alto in Mill Valley sometime this afternoon. I think it burned about, I'll give you the high level and Adam get in details. It burned about 2 hours. And Central Marin, I guess Mill Valley, probably County Marin also, they put it out really quickly. And Adam will probably repeat this. Central Marin especially, but I think all the fire agencies in Marin, as soon as they see something like that, they inundate that area with the equipment. And the whole target is put it out, contain it, and put it out as fast as they can. And I think an example of that was what happened today. So let me turn it over to Adam before we get to Colin. And Adam, if you just provide some more details and background.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. It was, I think you summarized what happened pretty well. I think it was about 2:15 today, where there was some smoke seen in a small fire off of Camino Alto, really up by the Mill Valley. It was on the Mill Valley side of the boundary, but up by the ridge, right as you sort of Camino Alto, where the border between Mill Valley and Corte Madera is. Started off as a half an acre fire, burned for about 2 hours, I guess, an hour or so, but ultimately forward progress was stopped. I think later, I'm not exactly sure what time it was, but ultimately after about 2 acres had burned, it was, really not high winds. So, and I don't want to get into all the details. Ruben, I'm sure, can give us more of a post operation sort of analysis of exactly what it was, but I was up there actually. I saw an incredible just amount of response and coordination amongst Mill Valley Fire Department, Corte Madera, obviously our Central Marin Fire Department team, along with Central Marin PD. We're all up on site and really just rapidly working to put it out, and ultimately grew up to, I think, about 2 acres. But you could see the amount of smoke that was really came off from a relatively small fire like that. It actually came pretty quickly right down because of the winds right down into Corte Madera, at least on the west side, and could smell it. It was pretty pungent even when I walked out of our office over where our temporary town hall is at 240 Tamil Vista. It was very strong smell. And but as always, we just have a great give thanks to our firefighters and the team that really was on it immediately. And I was up there to see them also just doing the work that you typically see out there, and more of the wildland fires of really digging a line around it and putting out all the hot spots. Really the underbrush was what burned and so on. So interestingly enough, my understanding is they were actually starting our fire mitigation efforts, and the shaded fuel break is starting, I think it was this week, if not this week or perhaps next week, but I think it started. Rebecca, you may have more information on that, but I think it was actually just starting in that very area right now. So we're sort of already making progress through the Marin Wildfire JPA Prevention Authority. Really, one of their big projects is the shaded fuel break, which is about a 200-foot wide swath along all the ridges, sort of adjacent to Mount Tam, up all the way up to Sleepy Hollow, and I think even into Terra Linda there, of creating a really taking out a lot of the underbrush and some of the smaller, more flammable, if there are invasives, some of the trees there too, but most of the trees obviously still standing there. So that's underway to sort of help with events just like we saw today. But again, it's another reminder. I would just say, remind people to sign up for Alert Marin. That's a really important, I think we put this out on our newsletter last week, and I think we'll put it out again today as a news flash to residents. But that's the one that will help you in an actual emergency if you need to shelter in place or evacuate. That's the message you will get is from Alert Marin. I will say, as out of an abundance of caution, there was they target specific areas of town. There was an Alert Marin message sent to areas of Christmas Tree Hill, asking people to shelter in place, not sort of take measures to evacuate or anything like that. They were informed of that, and if you don't get one then you are in good hands. You are safe. You don't need to. There's no emergency or immediate threat of an emergency. So, Alert Marin will put out those messages. Nixle, also there were some notifications that were sent out. That's going to be more general information, such as avoid Camino Alto today, avoid Camino Alto and Corte Madera Ave. That road was actually blocked. So that information came through Nixle that way. But just a good reminder of how information is pushed out to our community members. Sign up for those resources, and then a reminder of how quickly and why we are doing all the prevention efforts that we are in this county. So with that, I'll just, obviously there'll be more information to come on it, but they're still, I think, putting out the hotspots as we speak. And it was a good way for me to get firsthand information, go up and see them all at work together in the coordinated efforts of our police and fire teams up there. So hopefully that provides the most up-to-date information on what happened today. So,
thanks, Adam. Can I ask a question, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
Adam, you indicated it was up towards Chapman. Was it down the hill at Azalea and Camino Alto?
Oh, sorry. Where Chapman? Yeah, it was close to where Chapman hits Camino Alto / Corte Madera Ave, right where it's right at the boundary of Corte Madera and Mill Valley there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And Adam, it's mostly just low-lying vegetation, correct?
It was, yeah. I have some photos actually that show it, but it was the understory. There wasn't like big winds that were inflaming, so we're lucky. Obviously, there weren't big winds today or anything like that. So it was a dry grass fire and brush fire, essentially.
And then just to reiterate something you just said is that Central Marin or the other fire departments will stay up there to make sure that there's no hot spots that flare up for a period of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Quick question. I was outside the Women's Club Book Club, and I saw a strange looking helicopter go over just about the time that got started. It doesn't matter, but you don't see helicopters around here a lot unless they are, PG&E. And this one was like multicolored, almost like it was a strange looking helicopter. No, unrelated.
I don't. I mean, I saw it. I didn't really. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who was operating that helicopter?
All right. Any other questions on the fire? All right. So with that is we're going to not turn it over. We're going to let me introduce our guest speaker. It's Colin. I like using just first names. Colin is with Homeward Bound over at the Casa Buena. Before we get into the update on that, Colin, why don't you tell us a little something about yourself and how you came to be with Homeward Bound?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm a housing program director at Homeward Bound. I've been working for Homeward Bound and Marin for close to a year now, but have been working in Marin County for a little over 10 years doing nonprofit work and largely work related to housing. I worked at the Ritter Center for my period in Marin prior to being at Homeward Bound and Marin, and yeah, love the work that we're doing, and just really excited to see the project at Casa Buena getting underway and having a lot of tenants there now.
Okay, thanks. And why don't you tell us a little about what's going on over there as far as the project, because resident or occupancy was granted in June or July or so, and then residents started moving in, kind of like the timeline.
Yeah, absolutely. So residents, exactly as you said, Mr. Mayor, I believe it was end of June. We received our certificate of occupancy, and then after the 4th of July weekend, people started moving in. We really have had a great move-in process. It's been kind of gradual. So first, I think 5 or 6 people moved in July, and we now have 16 tenants who are living there out of the 18 available units, and just have a community that's really thriving. People getting along really well. People are, convening in the mornings and getting to know one another, and just really seeing a good, friendly, neighborly community developing there.
Okay. Did you get a lot of people that applied for the? There's 18 rooms, correct? And they're all single rooms, right? So there's no families, no couples, or anything like that, right? Yeah,
all single adults. All the rooms are, the former motel rooms, so they're not huge, but good sized studio apartments. We had a lot of interest, a lot of collaboration between different community partners. A really good process in place, and had a lot of people come through and look at it, and then landed on the group that we have now.
Okay, and I know you can't get in individual clients, but is there a pretty good mix of men, women? How do you kind of finagle that, or take care of that?
Yeah. There's a good mix. I think it's I'm trying to think. I think off the top of my head, it's around 50-50 male to female. One thing that's really hard to come by in the county of Marin is an accessible unit, so like a ground floor unit, like the ones that we have at Casa Buena. So we have 9 of those. So it's also a nice mix of age groups, where we have some older adults living on the ground floors, and then kind of a younger crowd on the 9 rooms above on the second floor.
Okay, and you have people ranging in age from 18 to or older, or
20 to I think the oldest person we have living there is around 78. So yeah.
I didn't prep Colin for any of these questions, by the way. I'm just thinking them off the top of my head. So that's why he's sitting there going, yes, I think about them. And then can you just kind of describe what a typical day in the life of a resident would be there?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. It really changes from one person to the next. We have some individuals who really spend a lot of the time around the property, and they'll have a lot of contact with folks in the morning. Our community room is pretty active. We're always making coffee in the mornings. People tend to come through and check in, see if there's any coffee around, see dinners are provided every evening by Homeward Bound of Marin. So checking the menu to see what dinner is going to be that night. A lot of kind of back and forth and activity happening from around 8:30 to 11. We have one woman who is currently working on getting her GED. She's spending a lot of the time going to the local library, going out and kind of engaging in the community in that way. It's definitely a mix, but we see, like I said, a lot of activity in the morning. Tends to be pretty quiet there in the afternoon, where people are, we have a few folks who are working, others who just kind of stay in their units, and then people who kind of go out and are, most people are new to Corte Madera, so a lot of people kind of going out and getting to know the surrounding areas pretty well.
Okay, and then something you said before, we'll get Susie in 1 minute on the meals. so everybody gets fed a dinner meal. What about like breakfast, lunch? Are they kind of on their own?
Yeah, people are on their own. There's also where we started doing one brunch once a month. So I think it's the second or third Sunday of every month. We have that provided. And then we're also getting some food donations here and there from places like Extra Food. So we do have a few kind of smaller items available, but by and large, it's just dinner is provided.
Susie, go ahead.
Hi, Colin. I know that for a while there was an ad hoc committee of people who were working with them, and I just wondered if there are. They probably still are, and I'm just not got my head into it. But are there any needs or anything that community has right now that the people in the community can be of help with, or they just doing okay right now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for your question. Yeah, nice to meet you, Susie. I would say it's an ongoing kind of conversation that we're having with people. One great example, we started, there's a woman that is known by Homeward Bound through other programs. She was really interested in volunteering. She started doing a photo class with people. So every Tuesday, I think today was the third Tuesday it's happened. She's coming and teaching people how to do photography with disposable cameras and talking about, what they might want to be taking photographs of. And that was something that kind of came out of conversations with tenants as they got settled. I foresee other things like that kind of popping up where people are looking for things to do and ways to engage. So, if there were anybody had any kind of skills they wanted to offer up, or as time goes on, we'll keep our volunteer site. We have a site with Homeward Bound where you can look for volunteering opportunities. We'll keep that active, and we'll keep adding to that as we talk with people and kind of get to know them.
Do they receive communication? I don't know, Adam or Fred, you might know from the rec department in Corte Madera. And would they be welcome? And I would think, and there might be things there that they could participate with. I don't know. Do you know if they receive the information from the rec department?
Yeah,
I know there's a flyer that goes out, which I assumed they should receive.
Yeah, I had asked Ashley, I don't know, did you get a copy of the recent fall brochure for Park and Rec classes, Colin? If not, I'll make sure you get a copy of it.
Who are you talking to?
To Colin.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I misheard you.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, we did go online and we printed it up, but a brochure would be helpful if I could come by and pick that up.
Okay, I'll make sure you get a copy of that. And then Adam, if I can remember, I think when Todd was around, we actually allocated $15,000 towards Park and Rec programs that residents of Casa Bernie would have access for free, and that they could use Park and Rec programs. So we allocated money towards that. Barbara, go ahead, and then we'll get to David after you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's great that it's nice to know about the Rec and Park programs, and we definitely should coordinate with Colin about that, because people don't know it's actually walkable unless you have mobility problems to go to Rec and Park to take some of those classes, and they're a great opportunity. I know they have some good art classes there. But anyway, I just wanted to say I toured the place during the open house, and I was really impressed with how nice the rooms look. I mean, they're smallish, but nice. They're all newly renovated, and they had very nice amenities, which was thanks to Homeward Bound, and I guess the volunteer ad hoc committee did a great job of kind of welcoming the residents in. So I just want to say kudos for that.
Thanks. Yeah, and the county did a really good job refurbishing those units. They're really nice.
Yeah.
David, go ahead.
Hey, Colin, a few questions. I'll just do them all and then you can respond. Are all of your units occupied? How many of your folks are employed? How many people have vehicles? Any calls for service to the Central Marin police authorities? And how are you folks getting along with Marin Joe's and the apartments on the other side?
Yeah. I'll try to remember all of those, and I'll start with try and go in order here. We have 16 of the 18 are currently occupied. I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm going to take a rough guess. I think it's about 7, maybe 8 of the individuals who are residing there are currently employed. And then of people who have vehicles, it's 6 or 7. So it's, a little less than half of the people have vehicles. We do have parking spots for 9 individuals. So kind of it's working out so far there with parking spaces. There have been 0 calls to Central Marin Police. So the only contact I've had with law enforcement so far had 2 different officers stop by to introduce themselves and just let us know that they're available and kind of let us know what they're doing in the community and what their role is. So that was really appreciated. And then let's see, with the neighbors, relationships been good. That parking attendant at Marin Joe's is the nicest guy. He's just always happy to talk and has some great interactions with him. And yeah, the complex, the other complex is known as Casa Buena. It's all in all been great. The only interaction we've really had is a few packages have come to our property instead of theirs that were meant for tenants there. But yeah, by and large, it's been really positive. So really just happy to see it going so well.
And I'm really pleased
to add to that. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Adam.
Well, just on I know Mr. Garbarino and that family who owns the apartment complex there, they were really pleased that Homeward Bound was able to construct the sort of finally a actual delineation between the 2 properties, and there's a fence there that hadn't existed before, and so that has just provided some separation, which I know they were very excited to see Homeward Bound doing. So,
Colin, I'm really pleased to hear that. I mean, there was so much misinformation in the beginning, or apprehension. And so I'm really pleased to hear that there haven't been any need for the Central Marin Police to interact. I'll add that the parking attendant for Marin Joe's, his name is Andreas. Mm-hmm. And Andreas is really a gem. The guy is a great family man and works very hard. And the final thing I'll mention is that I recall at one of the Park and Recreation Commission meetings, there was a discussion about offering the residents at Homeward Bound courses through the rec department at no fee. And I don't know if they actually voted and got that approved, but that maybe we can follow up on that if that's a reality.
It was approved it was approved. I went up going through to Todd actually. So yeah, I think we allocated about 15,000 for that program. So it's available.
It sounds like somebody needs to communicate and tell them about it. Right?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll follow back. I think what happens, I think in the beginning, because it was announced at the grand opening that the town was going to do that. And then I think over the next couple months after the grand opening, that's when residents started moving. I'll follow up with Colin.
It would be Colin who you would tell, huh?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry if it wasn't clear before. We did communicate to residents. We did locate online like what was available through Parks and Rec, and we have let people know. And I think just having, doing one more on top of that would be the brochures and kind of having them in our community area, just so people can snag one of those and bring it to their unit. But we did let people know. I think it really has been people getting settled in their housing. I mean, the longest residents we've had, people have been there for just under 3 months. So really, people just settling in more than anything. But yeah.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. It sounded to me like you didn't know. Yeah, sorry.
And then I'm sorry, I think Patty had a question maybe, but then one follow up to David, and that is, so you have Marin Joe's on one side apartment building. Have you heard anything from the neighbors either behind you or in that general neighborhood?
No, I mean, we beyond the initial meeting that we had, you know, and Adam was present for that, we met with the neighbors directly behind us who own most of those units back there, those different properties. There's been, there hasn't been much interaction besides, I think there's been 2 or 3 neighbors. One woman has a garden, and she's been dropping off some produce on a regular basis, which has been lovely. And then a few other folks stopping by just to check in, see if people are moving in and how we're doing, and just to say hello. So yeah, just a couple of really positive interactions, but outside of that, not really.
Okay. And Patty, did you have a question?
I did. I live on Casa Buena, so I go by there all the time, and I've never seen anything that gave me any concern. So I think things look like they're falling into place. When I first heard about it, I suggested that they might want to contact the car dealers to see if any entry-level jobs might be available, because they could walk just like a couple doors down and be at work. So I don't know if that's been followed through. And then I saw it looked like a trash enclosure right towards the front of the driveway. But then I saw there was a patio table and umbrella, and I thought, wait a minute, are we circling them together in this enclosure with the garbage? So I was concerned about that. And I thought, oh, maybe it's just a temporary thing till they find a better location for the garbage.
Yeah, that's a great idea for the car dealerships. We can definitely follow up on that. And thanks for your observation about that space. We had thought to use that as a trash enclosure. We ended up moving most of the trash cans to outside of that area. There are some recycling bins on the edge of that, but that's what's really turned into the smoking area, and then the trash enclosure is what's on the north end of that space. So things got shifted around just after people moved in. We kind of looked at the space, and it got shifted around a bit. So there definitely isn't a coexistence of both of those things. So yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking if I were enjoying sitting outside, I wouldn't want to be sitting next to the garbage, but
Yeah.
you know, whatever you can do to make it a little more pleasant.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then the other thing, Susie, going back to one of your questions, the ad hoc committee, we're still meeting, but we didn't meet, I think, either July or August because it was summer. And then we decided to go to quarterly meetings. So I don't think we're going to meet again for another couple of months or so, just because in the beginning we had a lot going on. And as you can tell, this has been really positive in the community. There's been no issues. So there's no reason for us to meet every month. So that's why we decided to go quarterly. But along those lines, Colin, I do have a question. If people did want to volunteer either time to come help, want to say pick weeds, whatever that way, or if people wanted to volunteer in the sense to drop items off, you know, like, are you looking for like toiletries? What kind of items would you prefer? And is it something that, you know, if I wanted to, I could just go, hey, I'm going to go to Rite Aid, buy X amount of toothpaste and toothbrushes, and I can just drop them off? How does that kind of work? And what are you looking for?
Yeah. Thanks for that question. You know, toiletries are great. Toiletries are expensive. And that's one good item that we could maybe even make a list and push it out to you, Mr. Mayor, you know, or put that on our website. We're going to be having our second community meeting. We had an initial one, and it was really a meet and greet. I think that next community meeting that we have, we'll be hearing a little bit more from people who have gotten to know us a little better around like what they're looking for, and that will help steer some of our volunteer efforts. Right now, it's just like I was saying before, you know, a lot of people just getting settled. And, you know, with the winter months coming, there might be some new needs that develop. So I can follow up on that, and we can get, you know, maybe a better breakdown and share a link with you that could be pushed up to this group around, you know, opportunities going forward.
Okay. And then you don't have to mention names. Other projects that you've been involved with, either Homeward Bound or in your past, how do some of those projects compare to the one in Corte Madera, I'll say? I mean, is it going like a lot smoother, community integration?
Fred, you know ours is the best.
That's what I was alluding to. It's better than the neighboring town.
I can only agree with you guys on that one. You know, this is my first experience of doing more of the on-site work. So where we have regular staffing, I'm more used to seeing people who are kind of out in the community, live in their own apartments, and we go to visit them. But having been involved kind of adjacently to similar projects where I've maybe participated on kind of advisory committees, we've had a ton of learning happen in the last kind of decade around housing programs, both with Homeward Bound of Marin and other nonprofits doing this work. So I think we're just getting better at kind of understanding the needs of the people we're serving, and also just what the services look like and how to deliver those services to people and talk with people about those. So I'm really can't express enough how pleasantly surprised around how well this project has been going. We're just really got a good group of tenants and a good group of providers coming in to support people in their housing. So it's just and just all the feedback we're getting has largely been positive. So it's just great to see.
Okay, thanks. You're right, Patty. We are the best. I'm going to segue just in another little question, which I'm not sure. Hopefully, you're familiar with. Adam and I, Homeward Bound, built another project out in Santa Fe, brand new. Adam and I got a chance to do a tour, I think about 3 weeks or so ago. It's like 4 stories. It's totally impressive. Can you just talk a little about that project that Homeward Bound did, the one in Santa Fe? Because again, I don't know about you, Adam. Corte Madera is great. I was just blown away with this one, and it serves a lot more people, a lot more provides homeless shelter overnight. It provides permanent supportive housing. It was just really impressive. And if I can remember, Homeward Bound actually owned the land, and you guys actually were able to go out and get grants and donations to have it built. Can you just speak a little about that project? And then I think they're potentially looking at another project in Novato, correct? Let's start the one in Santa Fe first.
Yeah. Thanks for your questions, Mr. Mayor. These projects are super exciting, and the one in Santa Fe, I'm actually going to be overseeing a lot of the permanent supportive housing there as well. It used to be the emergency shelter in Santa Fe that was called Mill Street. It's now called Jonathan's Place. Prior to the new building that's there, it was an old chiropractic office that was 2 large dormitories for one for men and one for women, providing shelter. And it was a single story, kind of small, cramped space. And it's now a 4-story building, parking garage on the ground level. The 2nd story is emergency shelter for 40 adults. And then the 3rd and 4th floors are permanent supportive housing. There's 32 units of housing, so 16 on each floor. And yeah, like Mary Castillo said, it was a huge effort in raising those funds. It's a $19 million building, and it's just phenomenal. We could, if people are interested, we're happy to set up tours and show people around. We have people moving in to units of housing in October. So the shelter just relocated from another site to that site about 2 weeks ago, and then we have units of housing going in on the 3rd and 4th floors pretty soon.
And if somebody want to do a tour, they could contact you then?
I'm happy to coordinate something and set up a tour. Happy to do that. And then as you mentioned, there's another housing project. It's going to be really just add to the existing campus that we have in Novato. So another we're calling it our HUD parcel. It's going to provide 57 units of housing and other services on site. Number of units, I don't know off the top of my head because I'm not as involved with that, but a number of units are going to be for veterans, and then the other units are going to be more like workforce housing, and that is going to be breaking ground in November up in Novato, kind of behind the airport or there, where a lot of Homeward Bound's other programs are. So yeah, two really exciting programs, just doing more to resolve homelessness for a lot of people in Marin County.
And I would encourage everybody, if you can, again, reach out to Colin to go visit, because again, it's really impressive what they did there. Just super impressive. Something you said before, you said you're going to be overseeing Sierra Fell. Does that mean you're still going to be with us in Corte Madera? You're not leaving us, are you?
Not at all. Yeah. I'm so, and thanks for that question, because I meant to mention this earlier. My coworker Alicia Slavich is the person who's at Casa Buena most of the time. So if you were to go by there and want to say hello, I'm not there 5 days a week. I'm there more maybe 2.5 days a week, and then splitting my time between Casa Buena and that site in San Rafael. So Alicia's more the day-to-day there 5 days a week, pretty much from the 30 to 5. So.
Okay. I just thought that, is there a manager or somebody on site there 24/7 or?
No, we have, 7 days a week, we have a staff person from Homeward Bound there. A lot of the time, it'll be 2 people there, like when I come through, or, another relief staff, but at least one person there from 8:30 until 5. And then the hours that there isn't a staff person, we have Barbier Security on site. So like the same security company that's over at the mall, they're present and on site when there isn't a Homeward Bound staff person.
Okay, thanks. It's good to know you're still around.
Yeah.
Did anybody have any other questions for Colin or comments? No? Okay. Colin, we really appreciate your time. And I think the whole process has been somewhat seamless. We had the bumps in the beginning with, there's going to be high crime, property values are going to come down, all that. I don't think that ever really materialized. And it just seems like it's been a positive thing in the community. And I like the win-win type stuff, where this is definitely win-win. We're providing, permanent supportive housing for 18 individuals that are in need. And I think it seems like they've been pretty integrated, or they're working their way, because again, some have just moved into our community.
Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And really nice talking with you all this evening, and nice to meet you, and really appreciate the questions.
Thanks. I got one last question for you. What would be on your wish list if you could get anything in there that you needed? A wish list. Say 2 or 3 items.
Yeah.
This is good if you have to think about it.
Yeah. I think it would be great to see, there's a really strong interest in like gardening and gardening work. So I think just like a gardening club or something like that would be a really cool thing to see, and people kind of getting involved in that way. And just seeing like hey, we're growing food and we're using it, and like that could go hand in hand with like cooking or something. I would just love to see more interaction, and I wish I had better answers right now about volunteering. Just really see more interaction to help tenants there realize, they are part of the community. They really are part of the community that cares about them. That they can be involved in, and kind of be reminded that, that's something that's available to them. And I think that could just go hand in hand with like, and it's not as much there as just people going out and, we talked about the Parks and Rec department, but people going out and like getting to know the library and getting, I could see almost like there's that wonderful woman who rides people around on her bike, but if there was volunteers and people showed interest around like, hey, come walk around and we'll we'll show you our community a little bit and show you what exists and have an interaction like that. I think would just be phenomenal to help people kind of peel back the layers of trauma that they have from being homeless for so long. So, yeah.
All right. Thanks. Appreciate that. I'm sorry, Susie, you were going to say something?
No, we'll put that out a little bit at the Women's Club.
That's what I was just going to say. How about the Women's Club?
Yeah. Well, we've got a meeting coming up next week and we can throw something out and throw some ideas around. So we'll be in touch, Colin. I'll know how to get a hold of you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Colin, do they do events like a Halloween gathering in the driveway or something like that? Would that be appropriate?
I think that would be amazing. I love it.
Kind of a street fair gathering.
That would be. I think we have some people who would be interested in doing something related to Halloween. So, yeah, that's a good idea. And we will be having more events going forward. We've really been kind of respectful of people as they get moved in, and we're kind of getting to know a lot of our tenants. So we're really not trying to push too hard on, hey, let us know what you want rather than us telling you, hey, these are things, and kind of overwhelming people. So, yeah. But with the holidays coming up, and yeah, something with Halloween, that'd be great. Like pumpkin carving or something would be really cool.
What would be great is if because it'd be easy to do, is we can get donations of pumpkins and do pumpkin carving.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, we have a hand raised. It just says Corte Madera resident, so I'm not sure who it is, but go ahead.
Hi, I just, I'm a little bit behind the curve here. The very first time I ever went over there, there was a woman with a child, and it was awesome for my kids to say hello, to see that this is in their community. So are there children there now, or are children allowed there, families with children?
It might have been a visitor. None of the residents, they're all single adults.
Okay.
Living at the complex. There could be, I know there's a couple like grandparents who live there, so it could have been their grandchildren visiting or something like that. But yeah, there isn't anyone under the age of 18 on site. Are
there allowed families, so to speak, or is it mostly you're directed at single individuals?
Yeah, it's a program for single adults. Given the size of the units and the fact that they're really like efficiency studios, they really aren't spaces that could work for families. So
okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments for Colin? All right. Well, again, Colin, we really appreciate you. Really appreciate you. You're doing a lot of great work.
Yeah. Thank you.
I told you it was going to be painless and simple.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it was nice talking with you all. And,
thanks, Colin.
Yeah. Have a nice evening.
Thanks. Okay. With that, we're going to kind of open it up. I'm going to ask Adam a couple. Can you give us an update on? I'm going to rattle this off. Town hall, housing element, and Caltrans. Those are the three that come to mind. You better talk fast, because we may have more.
Yeah, no, so town hall right now is actually, they're starting to they're creating the pad for the ultimately that needs to be certified and get the soils correct so that they can start foundation work. So the drilling of the piers should happen either later this week or next week. So we're starting really to get to foundation work. There's as with any construction project, there's sort of things you discover as you go into it. So a couple of those have sort of slowed the process a little bit, but once the foundations get in and are sort of ready to be built upon, the structure will start going up fairly quickly. So we're still looking at the structure and seeing some steel and coming out of the ground and later this year. So that's where things are with the town hall project. Just look for more activity going on there in the next couple months. But all is going according to plan this far, so that's good to see. And then what the other one was the housing element. So next step in the housing element is to release the draft subsequent environmental impact report. That should be going out for a 45-day public comment period. And that, hopefully will be going out maybe toward the end of next week, which would put, the end of that 45-day period sort of around Thanksgiving time period. And then after that, we will be bringing some items to the Planning Commission and Town Council which are basically the rezoning proposals for the opportunity sites that I think we've focused on. Spent a lot of time focusing on these housing opportunity sites where the policy is going to be really facilitating new housing development in these locations. Before we get to sort of the December Planning Commission hearings on the rezonings and some of the safety element update as well and whatnot, we are going to do a workshop likely in November, early November, with the Planning Commission as well, to talk about the rezonings and talk about specifically what these rezonings, the density for housing development, some of the development standards that would be associated with those rezoning proposals. So that is sort of where we are with the housing element. It's also that draft housing element. After going to the Town Council in August, it was sent off to the State Department of Housing and Community Development for their 90-day review period. So there's multiple things happening at the same time. So that's under review. And we won't really hear back from the state until the end of November with their comments. One important thing to note is there's sort of, as I mentioned, multiple things. We have the housing element, which is the big fat document, 500-page document. We talk in that document about completing these rezoning proposals. So the rezoning proposals, though, are on a different track. Those are town ordinances, essentially, that need to be developed and then adopted. And then, those are the hearings that I mentioned. And then you also have the environmental document. So these are three different sort of pieces to the housing element now that we're working on simultaneously. And the environmental document obviously is there to inform and provide information related to potential environmental impacts of going forward and adopting these rezoning proposals and the housing element itself. And I should say the update to the safety element, which is more or less tied to requirements of state law, where we need to now sort of talk a little bit more explicitly about our sea level rise and wildfire risks and things like that, which we've pulled from our climate adaptation assessment. So all these things are happening simultaneously. There will be hearings for the rezoning proposals, for the environmental analysis, and the safety element in December and January. The actual 500-page document, housing element, doesn't actually need to get adopted at that time. There is a little bit more leeway. We have some time to adopt that document later in the spring if we need to. And so there's sort of different timelines for different actions. So hopefully that's probably too much information on the housing element and where we are there, but I figure more is better than less, but it is sort of confusing, and so just trying to clarify that. The overcrossing project.
Oh, overcrossing.
Yeah. Well, there's not much of an update to provide other than we are actively searching for funds to, we did obviously at the council's direction, I think it was August. And then after that, we did submit the resolution that the town council passed, and also a staff letter to Caltrans, very clearly indicating that the town supports the alternative 4B, which was one of the alternatives that really widens the overcrossing to allow for safe bike and ped access across Highway 101 from on the north side of that overcross. We've also, since that time, RJ's team, got to hand it to him, really in about a week and a half's time, working with some of Caltrans staff, but really was mostly Public Works team and the engineering group, putting together a grant application for upwards of $10 million to try to close the funding gap. That's really what we have right now between what Caltrans has said they're able to fund and really the more expensive alternative, that 4B, which is what the town and our community has strongly indicated that we should be, Caltrans should be funding. But obviously there's a gap in funding. So we've put in some applications for a federal grant that would obviously help. We've been in communications with both TAM, Transportation Authority of Marin, as well as Senator McGuire's office, in trying to see if there aren't ways to really move the direction and try to find where push Caltrans, frankly, and then also try to find additional funding sources that may help the town close the gap in funding that Caltrans has told us they have. So those are sort of active discussions, and just nothing really to report on that front yet until we further those discussions with those stakeholders.
All right, thanks. And Barbara, you had a question. Go ahead, because you had your hand raised. So thanks for the patience. Go ahead,
No
Barbara.
problem. I know Adam has a lot on his plate, and I told her, I guess Todd, I'm kind of out of it. I guess Todd's gone now, so Adam is full-time town manager now. So I know Adam has a lot on his plate. But, as I'm a local resident on Willow Avenue, a long block away from Town Hall, and a lot of us work at home, if we could get some advance notice. So far, I haven't been bothered by the Town Hall construction at all. If we could, the local residents get some advance notice of the noisier aspects of construction, I think it'd go a long way to keeping the neighborhood happy. So
absolutely. No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And that's a very, something we will absolutely do as we get into any of the more
like the drilling
parts of construction, and we're
like
trying
drilling.
to and let us, and please just reach out. Mike Moriarty is our communications manager, and also and RJ and his team were, they're on site as well, and so it's really a stone's throw away for them to monitor what's going on. But we want to be mindful of that. So I appreciate that comment, and we'll certainly try to put out as much advanced warning as we can. Usually that stuff is about 48 hours. Is usually just because you don't know exactly the schedule, but we can try to do that moving forward. And so thanks for that reminder.
Yeah, thank you.
I just thought when they drive the piles in, that's going to make a lot of noise, right?
No, it's usually a pouring more if it's concrete foundation. So it's not going to, although, look, I can confirm it. But my understanding is that actually you'll drill the dirt. And so you have drill rig equipment that will be drilling holes, and then it's going to be rebar and more of a pouring of the concrete foundation.
Okay,
This is the difference between, it's the difference between really some of the work that has to go on in the floodplain, where you're really going down really super deep, versus this site, which is just, out of the floodplain. And it's one of the good reasons why we're actually building here versus some of the other options that we discussed during the process of discussing where we were going to build a new town hall.
Okay, and actually, do you know what the hours of construction are? Is it like 8:30 to 4:30, or do you know?
No, typically it's 7 to 5 during the weekdays. I think we aren't working on Sundays. I don't have it off the top of my head, but it was part of the approval process. Typically, I would say that the town normal construction hours for noise is we have an exemption for construction noise in our noise ordinance from 7 to 5 weekdays and from 10 to 5 weekends. But we may have done additional hours or restrictions just to be provide some relief during the week. And I'd have to check on that, but it may be Sunday where we aren't doing construction.
I'm sorry, Patty, one more for Adam. What about when they start pouring the cement and maybe, like, I'll say frame it up, steel girders or whatever, would there be street closures also for them to do that kind of work? Or is it pretty much done all
Perhaps
on site?
I don't know. It's more of an RJ question and Jake. But certainly if there's any road closures, we'd provide advance warning for that. One of the good things again about the site is that extended area, and why we close the sidewalk is we're using that parking area that was there as a way for, trucks could pull in and use that area if need be to sort of load or whatnot from the street itself. And I think that will be used as we go forward.
Thanks. Patty, go ahead.
I wondered if Jared Huffman has been of any help in getting that infrastructure money.
Working on it.
Good.
not yeah, there hasn't been not yet. I mean, obviously we want to use all available resources. So certainly that could be a source as well of potential help in finding additional funds, but we haven't really engaged to this point, but certainly are aware that that's an avenue we can go to.
It sounds like
we want to find the money for the PAT version of the overcrossing.
No, absolutely.
And the benches and the little puppies.
And then, hey, Adam, one more quick update. PG&E was going to do work right on Tamil Vista and Casa Buena also. Is there any update on that?
No, we're still trying to get them. What we want to do is there is a major gas line, a project that PG&E is going to need to do. My understanding last talking to RJ about this was they are sort of taking another look at their timeline and when that actual project will need to be done. It is a major project. What we want is to have PG&E come to a town council meeting and give a presentation about the project and provide information about what sort of closures may be necessary on the road and how impactful it will be. But my understanding is it was originally slated potentially for next summer, but I think it may be even delayed beyond that. I'd have to.
Uh-oh. You're killing Patty. You're killing her.
Well, but this is major. This is sort of the gas line work that is coming out of sort of all the infrastructure needs that they really need to do to really make sure that they're not having incidents like they've had in the past in other locations where unfortunately some real disasters have happened.
Can you just give high level background what that project, just high level what that project entails and where it would run? More or less.
But no, I mean, honestly, I don't want to, it's not, I know Tamil Vista would be significantly impacted. But they don't even, these are the main gas transmission lines really that run up and down Marin County. And so, but yeah, I'd rather have them provide the information about exactly where it would be.
They're 100 years old, the gas lines. So
yeah, I mean, obviously it's a needed repair, and it's unfortunate obviously to have impacts to our local roads and it will be impactful, but and to the residents that may live around there, but it's but we'll hear from PG&E and we'll make sure that they provide plenty of information and notice and are responsive to the needs of our community as to the greatest extent that they can and still get the work done. And typically one of the things with these construction projects is like we could and I know this from my plan, from planning and building, it's sort of, you have these trade-offs, right, of whether or not you restrict the time and the amount of time they can work on certain projects or when they can work, which ends up maybe providing some respite a day here and a day there, but it ultimately extends the life of that construction project. And so there's that trade-off that you just have to grapple with and find the right balance there. You want it finished quicker and then in and out, or provide sort of some respite in between and have some more limited work hours. And then we also have to think about the impact on real just circulation in town as well, in terms of being able to move about Tamil Vista Boulevard, which, as we all know, can get very congested at times, especially around school hours and whatnot too. So
I just thought of a really bad movie. PG&E Underground Project meets Caltrans Overcross Project.
Right. No, I'm not going to see that movie, Fred. I'll tell you.
Well, they were talking about 2025 for both of them.
Oh, Adam has a sad face.
Yeah. You know how there's delays in Hollywood. We'll see if they never release them on time, do they? I don't know.
At least if that movie does come out, there won't be a sequel, right?
Right. Right.
All right. Does anybody have any other questions, thoughts, comments?
And one thing I will say is I mentioned this, Fred. I don't know if this is matter, but I will mention. I know this is a small group, but I will be out for the next week and a half. So actually taking a family vacation here, so to Colorado, long time planned. So I'm doing it. I will be checking in remotely here and there, but in the meantime, Rebecca will be the acting town manager. So please, you know where to find her as well.
When Adam first took over as interim manager, the one thing I stressed to him is it's very important to do life-work balance, and you can't just work 24/7 and get burned out. So I pretty much stressed to him, if you need vacation time, as long as you're not like a 2-month sabbatical or anything like that. But
I remember a little bit differently, Fred. I think I said when we first talked about it, I said, just so you know, I got a vacation planned in late September, early October. No, but I appreciate that, Fred. It's true. We don't want to burn out any of our employees work-wise. So again, I think that applies to all of us. It has to be life-work balance. Barbara, did you have a question? Looks like you may have had a hand up. No? Okay. Go ahead, Susie.
I just want to say, yes, I want Adam to take a vacation. He deserves it. I had a hand up. Yeah.
Okay,
I know that Julie Kurtzberger is trying to get the word out to everybody about a candidates forum. It is, I can't remember the date.
October 6th.
October 6th.
It's on our website, I think. We just put
so
6:30. And
it's Zoom, right?
Yeah, it's I believe it's hybrid, and that's why we're having it. You can attend via Zoom. It is to be in the temporary council chambers. Let's see. Why don't we pull up the actual messaging that went out?
We got one other hand raised by Roy. Go ahead with this and we'll go to Roy.
Let me see if I can find it. I know it was just pushed out on our newsletter. Does anyone have the newsletter in front of them?
Adam, this is Lorena.
Oh, hi, Lorena.
I can help with that.
Perfect.
Hi, I've been listening in. Hi, everyone. The council candidates forum is on Thursday, October 6th at 6:30, and it's going to be via Zoom only.
Okay.
And the information's on our website. It's on the homepage, and there's a picture that says Town Council Candidates Forum. And we also publish the information on Nextdoor, the newsletter, and on Facebook.
And it's not a town. This is the chamber.
This is not
chamber.
Correct. It's a Chamber of Commerce event, and the information's also on the Chamber of Commerce website if you'd like to look as well.
Okay, thanks. And we have two hands raised. One is by Roy and one is just Corte Madera resident. Go ahead, Roy.
Okay, thank you. Are we going to get into some discussion? I had sent an email to you, Mr. Mayor, and then also Adam, and I thank Adam for replying yesterday. I wanted to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. One of the things you mentioned, a movie, before I get into that, I was watching, wanted to show my granddaughter Pinocchio. And remember, Jiminy Cricket comes out and talks about when you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. That's back in the 50s. But I was watching Pinocchio and I go, boy, look at it's high definition, really. Jiminy Cricket really looks high dev, Geppetto and everything. And then my daughter, one of my daughters happened to call and I was telling her about it. She says, well, is Tom Hanks Geppetto? I said, geez, I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to Geppetto. I was looking at the dog or the cat and goldfish and that sort of thing. And then I realized there was a cartoon in a movie. And it gets to a certain point, and I thought we were looking at, I mean, leave it to Disney, and this is the kind of the diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff. There's a mess in the middle of the street, and Pinocchio's playing with the mess. And I go, man, that's just emulating the streets of San Francisco. So I don't know what's happening with this whole diversity and equity business, but it's hit Walt Disney big time. You know, and Walt Disney hires a diversity and inclusion manager, and the first thing they start doing is excluding ladies and gentlemen and that sort of thing. And that's getting to the kind of the heart of my concern on diversity, equity, and inclusion. But I'd like to have a conversation about the town staff. I felt was doing an excellent job, very competent, offering excellent service or service and excellence, responsiveness, very competent. And I don't know why the town chose to put a layer of diversity, equity, and inclusion with all the problems that come along in the baggage that comes along with that type of program. And to make the diversity, equity, and inclusion one of the cornerstones, number 6 of the mission and value statement, I think is wrongheaded. And I'd like to have some conversation around why did the town do that? There's a lot of lawsuits coming about with this whole diversity, equity, inclusion, some very bad things, and don't have time to share all those tonight. Don't have time in 3 minutes at council meetings to really go into depth. Fred, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate the conversation we had, I don't know, month and a half ago about certain issues. So I'd like to hear from other individuals that are on the call right now about the diversity, equity, inclusion. I mean, even at the council meetings, I've heard things like Corte Madera, oh, how white Corte Madera is, how white Redwood is, and then the whole thing about white privilege was blurted out at one of the meetings. And that is what diversity, equity, and inclusion is doing. It's excluding. It's actually newspeak. If anybody knows newspeak, if you say inclusion, it's exclusion. I mean, this goes on and on and on.
Hey, Roy, I have a suggestion. When Adam comes back, I'll see if anybody else has comments on this, but when Adam comes back from vacation, why don't the 3 of us circle back? Because I think this is really a totally separate conversation, and we could probably spend hours on this. So if you're okay with that, when Adam comes back, we'll set something up, circle back with you. In the meantime, does anybody on the call have any comments to what Roy said about diversity, inclusion, real quick?
I'm not sure what he means, because I'm not sure what he's asking. If you're asking the town to ignore it, or if you're asking, that's what I don't understand. So I do know what diversity, equity, and inclusion means. It makes sense to me that the town has an interest in it, but I don't understand what you're asking, Roy. I just don't, that's all.
Okay, well, I mean, very simply, why would the town take an excellent program that they have in place, an excellent staff, and have them go through the diversity, equity, and inclusion process? Oh, I don't see what racist, doing a racial say. I looked at the circled up and I looked into it. And that is not, I would not want to be trained by that group of people.
I don't know
Because it
about
is
the trainer.
antithetical to.
Hold on, Roy. Go ahead, Susie. And again, I don't want to be offensive to anybody. I just want to see if we can keep this short because again,
I don't know about the
now we're on
trainer,
debate.
but I think those kinds of things, because they are issues in the world today. And I think it probably brings the staff up to what is going on, in the world. But I'm sure there are other.
I would just say ultimately, Fred, I will happily attend a meeting, and Roy, I'd be happy to discuss further with you as well. But ultimately, I mean, I think you're asking us the question of how we are defining those words in terms and what they mean to us as a staff in our community. And that's exactly the process we need to go through. So it's not just because you use certain words doesn't mean that they're actually categorized in some sort of way that others may be categorizing those things. But certainly, to what Susie said, I would agree. Those, the words of themselves and those goals, I think we can all agree are important to strive toward. So as how they are done elsewhere or how others are actually using that terminology to convey certain political beliefs is beyond sort of what we're trying to do here. So,
Patty, go ahead.
Well, I'm thrilled to see the town taking on this as a focus to enlighten people who live here and who work here. One of the inclusion and diversity things is ageism. And, that's been my whole raison d'etre for the last 8 years or something. So whatever we can do to make equity among all the people that live here, I'm all for it. So as Adam said, everyone might have a different interpretation of terminology. And I believe that that's one of the things that the committee is trying to do, is to determine what the terms mean and how it impacts the town and the townsfolk. So I'm all for it.
Thanks, Patty. So Roy, again, when Adam comes back, I'll have him circle back with you and then we can sit down and further discuss if that's okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. I appreciate that. I'm going to send out an email. I sent it to Rebecca earlier today, and it's a podcast from John Batchelor, and he is just a gem. He is the best reporter in the United States today. He's about my age, so that makes him about 3/4 of a century in long tooth. And it is an excellent podcast about kind of the history and the status and the goings on of the whole diversity, equity, and inclusion program. And if you put together DEI, how would anybody pronounce that? It's pronounced day, as in God. And that is not a coincidence.
All right. Again, thanks, Roy. Appreciate the comments. And we'll circle back with you because Adam, you have to go to the planning commission meeting, right? Tonight?
yeah, I was going to say we also have planning commission at 7
Which is
on this Zoom channel, I believe. So,
all right. So again, I appreciate everybody's time. I appreciate all the comments and the input. Just keep them coming. And everybody have a great night.